Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Question for you about the information you want to talk to me about tonight.
Oh yeah.
Are you thinking like newsletter, kind of like a magazine?
Little, yeah, kind of like an end of year report, maybe.
Okay, but it cannot be a letter. Like I started writing it, and it's gonna be super long. So
I know
I'm
it's going
thinking
to be
like
super long. So what are you
fun
thinking?
pictures, some sort of
Okay.
short newsletter. I'm
Maybe.
gonna work on it. When do you
Because
want
not
to
everything needs to be a paragraph, right?
Right, I'm thinking like quick little.
Hey, summer school is this time.
Yep, so we're gonna work on it. Like I can see should have some information nailed down yet, and nothing about next year because we don't want people to have it granted to be like you said this. So, but I think
Well, I think we can put something about it is our intent or our hope
yeah,
that we will be back here
I
next
feel
year.
for this information coming in your mailbox. Because I talked to Beth, and she's gonna send out the new busing letters, all that good stuff. So we'll put all that.
Okay.
Because of me, because we nominated Rose Tate. I did. I thought they forgot about it. Because I wrote a really good thing about Rose, and I thought she should have won. So they wish she didn't. So we're going to get all kinds of slides and kids and stuff. It'll all be an extra. I'll work with the lady over there.
I'll let you announce this.
And then whenever you send me the stuff,
You tell them.
will you send me what you send me what you sent about Rosa? So I can include it and then you hey, that's gonna go in your newsletter. Done. Done and done.
Yeah, so Tracy said, you know, I'm sitting there, she's like, hey, do you hire a lot of people? And I check out, like, there's a whole rack of movies and I'm like, tomorrow.
You got it.
Are you training with that?
I called her back. Hey, from marketing.
That's great. You can start that.
I was already spending it.
You can maybe start that.
And then I put it in my bag and I
There she is. There we go.
I was getting ready to come up and meet you.
I wasn't sure if it was 10:30 or 10:45, so I'd be over there.
Randy B, how's it going?
It's really interesting, so you know, I love him. You do a great job all the time.
I appreciate it, good. That means a lot.
And I appreciated the live streaming. I loved it.
Oh, I know.
Hey, I went to the district track meet.
Yeah.
Aisha
Nordonia?
told me about her son, you know, running, and I thought, well, she's gonna too. I went.
Right.
That was a great meet. Man, that Xavier Preston. Is he a junior?
Yeah, he's very
I
good.
saw some people said he was a senior. and
Oh,
I
he's
thought somebody said
he's
junior.
very good.
He was awesome.
Very good.
And Jayla, too. Jayla.
Yeah, Atkinson. Yeah, she's very good too. Yeah. Yes. Yes, had a great year.
Fun to watch. It's so nice to be outside, doing something. Yeah, it's like a family reunion. It's what it is. I love it. Outside and girls.
You're the best. How'd you get that?
Who's on my desk? We needed a jacket.
All right, 1 minute. 1 minute. Thank you, Bert. Yeah, here's the year in review, and here's what we know going into next year. It's not all inclusive, we'll send more stuff. Make sure you check your mics.
Okay. Make
We will be finishing with athletics and then going to fine arts. If you want to make your announcement first. If you don't mind, Madam President, when we come back live, Mr. Hartman, or Dr. Hartman would like to make an announcement to the community and to the board. It's good, it's not bad. He's not quitting or leaving.
This is the
But,
forum that I
hey,
would choose.
The camera's up here, so you'll have to.
I have to go where? Up there. Almost right in front of
Like, seriously?
Let's give a couple minutes after we go live, Bob.
We're good.
We're live? We're good. Okay, so let's give a couple minutes so people can jump back on here, Jeffrey.
Am I, so, camera's there? Hello? Okay. All right, can I speak now? Is it, we good?
Yes, just
Okay.
allow-
So while I was sitting down here, I got a phone message that the Ohio Lottery called. And then I saw that like the Vaximillion thing was pulled today. It's not me, just so you know. But runner-up, in February, Tom nominated Rosa Tate. We talked about Rosa earlier. Nominated Rosa Tate for a nomination for the Ohio Lottery. Rosa wasn't chosen in that pool, but what that did do is enter the school into the larger School of the Year nomination process for the Ohio Lottery, and we're the statewide School of the Year for the Ohio Lottery. So they just called and told me that. But that was cool. Absolutely, Tom did it. It's all his fault. So there's going to be all kinds of swag for our kids and for our staff. There's some other kind of stuff that we're going to get from them, but it's all very fresh information, but they're going to be tweeting it out today. So we wanted to share all of that today in case somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, did you know about this thing at the high school? So very cool. We're going to work together with the Ohio Lottery over the summer and going to kind of kick off everything next school year. So just wanted to share the good news. So there was 162 nominations, and we were the one for the entire state. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
so very cool.
Great.
Yeah, that's it.
Great news. Continue to go. All right.
we'll move along. As Mr. Gumry said, there's a lot of different things that go along with live streaming that we'll have to figure out with copyright and all those other kinds of things, the many different activities that go on. So that's a work in progress. Before we move along to the next one, and the first couple were long for me, the last couple are going to be very quick. But Booster Club President, Scotty Rohrbach, Vice President Zoe Walsh, who's here. John Hunt's our treasurer, and Tracy Rysek is our secretary. I didn't miss anybody, did I? Those guys, we have a booster executive board that meets prior to meetings, and they just do an outstanding job, as you guys stated earlier. So we're happy to have them. And you'll see on down the line on a strategic goal, there's some on our booster board that we're going to have to replace. So you'll see that coincides with a goal later on. Lastly, before I move on to the next, there's a couple of OHSA updates, and we'll get into hometown ticketing here in just a minute. But two things you're going to see that have changed with the OHSA talking about the pandemic. So one of the things is Bylaw 4-4, which is the scholarship bylaw. I know some of you have been to our parent meetings. I know Mrs. Johnson-Bowers was at the one in the spring. And they're waiving the 4 credit. But we will continue to put in place ours with the GPA requirement. So we don't have to count credits. We are looking at GPAs for the first fall quarter, and then everything should be back to normal after the first fall quarter. And then lastly, all the teams, and this is Sports Regulation 7.5.1. It only allows teams to have 10 days of practice from June 1 to July 31st. Because of what they've missed, they've waived that. So you'll see teams practicing, I'm scheduling turf now, where we are out there because they can practice more than 10. Now, I've said to coaches, be careful, let's not burn them out. Let's kind of, use some dates and use it to our advantage and then be big as we get closer to August 1. But we do not have to follow that 10-day rule this summer. So you'll see. What's that? Did not cap it. No. So, all right. Expand hometown ticketing. I can't thank Ken Miller, Assistant AD, and Zoe enough. We've talked to Mr. Gumry. Actually, if you'll see number 4 on here, and we'll get it to you, we've got a ticket and season pass meeting tomorrow. So we're going to meet at 10. So yes, we can look at where we're headed. We know what we want to do, but he's going to kind of guide us on some of those things. One of the things we'd like to do, and we'll discuss, is continue the cashless system at all events. It worked out pretty well. Mr. Gumry likes it because we're not counting money. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. We're going to use hometown ticketing for season passes. So we think season passes will be big. As Mr. Campbell stated, people want to get out, and that's true. So we're hoping to have big event attendance in the fall for everything. We've got 6 home games. I talked to the upper level administration about that this year. It worked out different, but we think we hit the timing right with 6 home games. Now, the year after that, I got to be careful. We got 4, but I'm going to try to do something with that jamboree where we make it kind of a community event, so we almost get 5. So we'll be able to work that in the next year. So with that being said, let me bring up Ken and talk a little bit about what we did with ticketing and QR codes and all the details of that, because he was great. Believe me, he was great. Ken?
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for allowing us to be here this morning. We're all here for the students, and that's what it's all about. So last year, about this time, we were all scrambling, everybody. That does not say the athletic department didn't have some issues either. With the COVID restrictions changing daily, trying to find a plan that we could put in place in 3 months' time or less that would satisfy all of the plans requirements and still work for us. And I really have to give credit to our assistant faculty manager, Megan Hansen, who took the ball. Can I use an athletic? She kind of ran with it and made connections with hometown ticketing. Now, hometown ticketing has been around for a while. It's kind of the same process if you've gone to an Indians game or anything like that. It's the same sort of process they use. A different company, and they have suited it better for high schools than professional sports and entertainment. But primarily what you do is, as Kyle said, it's completely cashless. You go on, the first time you buy a ticket from us or anyone using hometown ticketing, you have to set up an account, much like Amazon or anything else. But once you have that account set up, you can purchase a ticket in less than 2 minutes. And it really, in our department, it made manpower available to do other things. We did not, for example, on a Friday afternoon, we had football. I would be busy getting 6 boxes of tickets and cash. I'd have to run to the bank and get cash, and I'd have to get all those boxes out to the gates, and then it was just, and then after the game, you had 2 hours of reporting to do. This alleviated all of that and allowed us to spend time on other things, because football is not the only thing we do in that office. And so it really helped with the manpower issue. I think many of you have purchased tickets this way and come to our events. I think we did not hear, I can't think of one hometown person from Stow with a complaint about our system. Now, one of the issues that we have to address in the future, and I don't know how much control we have over it, is that every school does it their own way. We have hometown ticketing, but there are schools that still sell paper tickets. And when those people come to our events, they have to purchase through hometown ticketing on our website. That's when we hear the complaints. Well, at our place, we buy a ticket and walk right in. Well, that's your place. But that's the kind of thing we have to think about when we get that information out to other schools that we're playing. I mentioned last year when Megan came up to us with this idea, we very quickly realized it was going to cost us some money on equipment. And Bob helped us with that, Scott helped us with that, Trevor helped us with that, and very, very quickly we were up and running. That equipment, as with all technology, is going to change, I'm sure. We're talking about a 5-year strategic plan. If you'd have told me last year we'd be doing this, I wouldn't have known. So where are we going to be in 5 years? Who knows? I can just tell you that we will review every year and adapt every year, and as the technology grows, so will we. At least that'll be our attempt. The overall dollar amount, I don't know, but I do know that it's not as expensive as you might think. We purchased 4 iPads. We have 3 here at the high school. We sent one to Kimpton as well. We needed a hotspot so that we could read these things at the gate. Bob Bird got us that. We needed iPads. This is our scanner. Someone comes to the gate with a QR code, and we scan it, and they're in. Very, very quick process. And we have 4 of those. And going forward, in fact, Kyle mentioned we're meeting tomorrow. Going forward, what we want to do is implement through a Stripe account a card reader, which we can use at the gate itself. So someone walks up, they didn't go online ahead of time and purchase a ticket, we're not going to turn them away. If they have a credit card, we can purchase it right there. So we can swipe it, we can even tap it with the Apple Pay and that kind of stuff. So we've just set up in the last month, I believe, Trevor set up our Stripe account, but we want to get that going here in the fall. And then going forward, I can tell you that our process, the hometown ticketing process was used by our prom people this year. Their tickets were purchased online. The system gives you a printout of everybody that has purchased a ticket. Going forward, I could see this being used in drama, maybe for band shows. Any fundraising event of any kind you can do on this kind of a thing. So I can't tell you where we're going to be next month, let alone 5 years. But
Is this a subscription service, or is it something that, software that we've purchased? Or both?
no, this is not a subscription. Every time we sell a ticket, hometown ticketing takes $1.
Okay. So how does it work with the season passes?
That's what we're going to be
still
discussing.
figuring that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I listened to
That's
a
what's
webinar. Hometown Ticketing had a webinar last week that I listened to. They are very gung-ho on passes. So what we need to do after our meeting tomorrow is get a hold of our representative from Hometown Ticketing and say, this is what we want to do. We want to go back to having our adult and student passes, if that's what we decide to do. How can we implement that with your program? So that's one thing we're going to be doing very, very quickly here in the next month, I would think.
Is it $1 flat fee no matter the price of the ticket?
Yes.
Or was it just a percentage?
Yes, except a complimentary ticket did not have a service charge. There are actually 2 fees that are applied when you buy a ticket. We decided to stay with one ticket at $6 for everybody. That could change, and I imagine it will change. Other schools did not do that. Because when you have a $6 ticket plus $1 service charge, and then there's another 43 cents on top of that that goes to the handling of the funds from bank, so on and so forth, that $6 ticket has turned into $7.50 already. And so we just wanted to go with that one $6 ticket. We'll talk about that again tomorrow, but that's how Hometown Ticketing gets their money. They get $1 per ticket. Yeah, that is a lot of money. I will say this, a lot of things positive have come out of this COVID thing. For us in the athletic department, this is one of them. It was perfect timing. We've talked about going cashless in the past, but it was with 2,000 people coming to the football game at one time, and if things crashed, it would have been a nightmare. Having limited capacity this year really helped us get our feet wet with this. In fact, this is such a good system. We were very, very fortunate that it is the same system that the Ohio High School Athletic Association adapted for all of their tournaments. So if it's good enough for them, we were very fortunate to have chosen a good system. Many, many schools will be forced to go to this system in the future. We're already there. So.
Thank you, Ken, and he did an outstanding job. And just to reiterate, that's why we selected them. Because remember, when you get to a tournament, Scott just talked about baseball, softball, so we're in the OHSA tournament. We wanted our parents to be able to say, I'm familiar, I know how to do it, I've done hometown ticketing. So that's why we wanted to stay with hometown. So then they're not frustrated at the end of the year when they get into tournaments, because they've already got the account and they know how to use it. So, yeah, $1.43. I know some other athletic directors I've talked to, they've looked at it, but service is pretty good with them too. We've called them a number of times early on, and they were great. Am I missing anything on that, Zoe or Ken?
Kyle, we are going to be coming back to you guys.
Yep.
So if there is anything, let me know. I need to get to Greg and Nick with Fine Arts, and we will come back to finish athletics because they have class in a half an hour. So I want to make sure that they have enough time to be able to get through what they need to talk about and get through. And just so the board is aware and not caught off guard, today is a 20,000-foot discussion with them about the vision that they see. At the next Board of Education meeting, we'll be formatting what we've talked about today for review and edit, okay? And so it'll be more in the format that, 1 through 4 have been. But today is that kind of format or discussion today with them, all right? Okay, take it away, guys.
Thank you, and thanks for having us here to talk about our programs. As Tom said, just a 20,000-foot view of the program growth. We'd like to see member increase and plans for doing so and goals for the program overall. In addition, we want to speak broadly about the desires of the facility and some big picture needs. So I'll go as quickly as I can. I'm covering 8 grades. So I'm going to start at Lakeview, and I can tell you that our recruiting numbers are really solid. Of course, down a little bit with COVID, and we do have a plan in place for that. With a secondary recruitment that's going to take place in late summer, early fall, to get those numbers back up to where we really want them, with an aggressive plan to catch up those first-year players, second-year players by January is our hope, and that's a goal that the team has spoken about. Our main focus, based on our recruiting numbers being so solid, is our focus is on retention and keeping those kids in play. And I can speak to just a couple things in regard to that, and the plan that we have in place is very successful, and so the 5-year plan to that would be to continue what we're doing with that, and that is our staffing levels are outstanding. The schedule plays into maximizing our staffing and that kind of thing, and we also have a wonderful student-led band aid program that is high school students coming down to the element to Lakeview and working with students 1 day a week, and it really helps bridge the gap there. And so that's a wonderful program that we'll continue on working with to retain our numbers and make that a solid foundation of our entire instrumental program. At Kimpton, our numbers there are again very solid. Our retention is quite good, and again, due to staffing, that there's always an assistant there helping with, if you've got a band of 80 students, you've got somebody there, another adult in the room helping. Students that need extra attention that can be pulled out in small groups or individually, all those things, student needs are addressed, and it plays into the continuity of our team, and it plays into our whole philosophy of bridging students from Kimpton to the high school, and that's why those numbers are so solid. As we move to the high school, things that are solid there, we continue to have consistent class sizes of about 60 per class, and that is down a little bit, again, contributed to COVID. It doesn't take a large number per class to make the overall number, when you multiply it by 4, a little bit lower than what we would like to have seen. At this point, pre-COVID, we had hoped to have seen between 65 and 70 students per class, giving that number of about 280 in the high school marching band, and we're down to about 240 right now. And that's all contingent and based on some of the things that we've seen through COVID and that kind of thing. So again, our 5-year plan there is to continue to do what we're doing, get over this COVID hump, continue to meet the needs of students, to bridge them from Lakeview to Kimpton and Kimpton to the high school, and make that a very visual part of what we do district-wide, instrumentally. Let's see. Things that we're doing at the high school that really help our numbers and keep kids involved is we continue to work with our CCP students and our CTE programs to allow them to participate in band while participating in those programs. So we've really worked hard to work with those programs to keep students involved in our program as well, and that's just a great thing for everyone, that they don't have to make choices that are difficult like that we're able to incorporate them into all those things. Band offers them, and the arts offer them a great change of scenery, incorporating school spirit and team building, arts and diversity, and it gives them a lot of leadership opportunities here in this building, and that's just something we're so very proud of as well. Another thing that helps our numbers, our retention numbers, is our strong band honors program. It gives the students that weighted grade opportunity, and it just has really taken off. We've tweaked some things over the years, and I think we found a really solid place for the band honors program. It allows students to do some extra commitments, some extra things to earn that weighted GPA, and it really is helping our numbers. It's helping our quality of our program, and that's just something that we want to continue to develop and maintain, and let the students just run with it, because they're doing a heck of a job with it. Another thing that we are continuing to, now that we're getting over the COVID hump, is we want to get back to Florida. We want to get back to Florida in 2022. That's something that the kids really look forward to. It really helps pull in our students. Not necessarily, I mean, sure, they want to go to Florida, but they really, really enjoy the performances there. It's just an exciting, exhilarating time for them. And we're looking forward to getting back to some away football games as well. A lot of team building goes on there, and then getting our pep band up and running again come basketball season, which is, again, another student-led organization, which is just outstanding. Just to speak a little bit about COVID and the impacts there, absolutely has affected our numbers, and I spoke a little bit about that. So we're going to be playing catch up. What I hope everyone understands is since it's an 8-year cycle, that whatever happens in 5th grade, we won't see for another 4 years until those kids start to reach the high school. And so we're going to be playing catch up for several years, and we really work hard to make sure that will be in place, and we meet our goals that way. In regard to quality of our program, we've worked very hard over the last year to stay in the cutting edge with CDC and local health things to fulfill our performance requirements, and change the way that we do recruiting to make it safe for kids, be on the cutting edge of having a band camp and follow through with all those things, having our concerts. Our American Celebration team effort that Mr. Campagna and I do, I just checked before the meeting, we have 950 views on YouTube, which is outstanding, and that just speaks and just pulls in community members to what the arts provides for the district. So it's just some exciting things that are happening, as well as we continue to and will continue to hopefully be recognized as one of the best communities for music education. So it's something that we are very, very proud of. Just a few big picture budget item things just to talk about. Uniforms, whew, it's a big one, but it's something that is something around the corner, potentially within the next 5 years. I can tell you that the Band Parents Organization has continued to put money away to offset the cost of these uniforms, but I can tell you, I just spoke with our uniform rep that we bought those uniforms new in 2004. They usually last about 10 to 12 years, and come 2022, they're going to be 18 years old. So it's just something that, but I can tell you that the uniforms look pretty darn good. So we are really trying to take care of those and be responsible with all that kind of stuff as a big picture item. Another thing that we're working on here at the high school specifically is working on the instrument storage area down in the band room. I've worked on an estimate in 2019 to update and reorganize that storage facility for instruments from the standpoint of it being constructed in 1986, and it's just time to update that to accommodate the number of students that we have in the program, to make it safe for kids so that they're not getting splinters and things like that. So that's just something on the horizon that we want to continue to work on. And then finally, I can tell you that Scott and I and Mr. Campagna, we're working on a sousaphone replacement program. I can tell you that 50% of our sousaphone inventory will turn 40 years old in 2022. So they've been reconditioned 2 times, and so that's something that is on the horizon that we're working on, a phased plan to potentially replace those instruments. And then I'm very excited about the district piano plan, replacement plan. I saw that in here, and I just can't speak. We're just so excited to have the new piano in the auditorium, and the number of times that we've used that over just this year is wonderful, and it's just very exciting to have that instrument in there and being used by students, and it's awesome. So we're looking on to moving stages 2 and 3 and getting a district pianos replaced throughout the district, and Scott and I are working on that as well. So without running on too much, do you have questions for me? Careful, right? Careful. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll pass the mic over to Mr. Campagna.
Thank you. I have a lot of things to echo what Mr. Newman said on a lot of similar topics, but first of all, I'd like to apologize for my tardiness to this morning. I was letting my final time I'm going to see a class get started before my class coverage got here, so I don't get to see them again the rest of the week since we don't have classes on Friday. I want to make sure I saw them today. So anyways, to get some things wrapped up. Like band, like any music program right now this year, due to COVID, our enrollment numbers are down. We were on a steady growth pattern up until the pandemic hit. We were at our peak in about 2019, in the fall of 2019, coming in with about 170 students in the high school choir, about 100 in the Kimpton choir. This year we're down to around about 105 at the high school. We've lost a pretty good chunk, and Kimpton's down and under 50. So a lot of parents were afraid to go through with the whole singing thing in an enclosed space. We did sing with masks on all year long, performed and rehearsed 6 feet apart. It's not fun for the students. They don't like it. They overcame it, and I can't wait until we don't have to wear these things anymore. And the benefits of what this extra work they've had to do we're gonna reap the benefits of that later. So our goal is to get those numbers on the way back up, starting right away. We're graduating a couple big senior classes in a row. This year was a large one. Next year's is larger. So we're going to be having a little bit of a dip, but the goal is to get us back up to the 180 mark within a couple years. At the 5-year mark, having 200 students involved in the high school choir of a school this size, I think we should have at least 10% of the school enrolled in the choir program. And then at Kimpton to have at least 100 to 150. Again, with a school that large, we should be at least at the 10% mark. We're working on recruitment with use of student officers. We have 4 student officers that hold positions that are active with recruiting, especially a Kimpton liaison that goes down and attends concerts, gets to know the students, and works with us on transferring numbers to the high school. We're also interested in expanding that to the Lakeview area. Since I'm not on staff at Lakeview, like band has directors 5 through 12. We have somebody else. We have Melody down there at Lakeview to start working on getting connected with those students as well to transfer that number through the program. We're going to try to get some more, community performances back up, within the district, at events around the district, at, board luncheons, whatever we used to do those. Those were fun. The kids enjoyed getting to come eat at a luncheon once in a while. Commencement, freshman orientation, athletic events. The students have been really missing getting to sing national anthems at athletic events. Mentorship from the high school to Kimpton. We're really working on that, Kimpton to Lakeview, and so on. Like band is interested in going on that Florida trip again on the off years, halfway between. We went to Chicago a few years ago. That was a huge thing. Through a lot of fundraising, it's possible to make that happen again. We're looking at doing that same thing. Scheduling is an issue every single year. I probably lose 10 to 15 students a year due to AP classes that are the same period as the advanced choir they qualified for. That's kind of a bummer every time it happens. Or a career program. I am still willing to work with students that are in a career program that want to learn the music outside of class and still participate. I will never turn down a kid that wants to do the work and just to be part of the program, even if they're not getting an academic credit for it as well. But we're still working on that with the college credit plus and that kind of situation to make sure they're still involved. We're working on, like Mr. Newman said about the American Celebration Concert, collaboration between the programs that provides a huge audience for us. And in that situation, as our numbers get back to normal in the audience, in the arena, or the auditorium rather, we have an issue with seating in our auditorium in this district, where there's a lot of seats that are not operational, and if we pack the house, we have to almost turn people away because we have that kind of situation, and we can't have a seat for all of them. We're hoping to get those numbers back up. I know there's an auditorium renovation on the agenda as well, and we're really excited about that, and the piano program, and we're super thankful for that. Getting those pianos throughout the district replaced. Some of those pianos, man, they should be in a dumpster probably instead of being used right now, including the one I use during class every day here at the high school. Speaking of the auditorium, we have students on staff in the auditorium that run lights and sound. One thing for growth, I think, here would help us a lot is if there was a more adequate training program for these students. I know there's stagecraft, but as far as sound goes, we don't really have anything on the curriculum for those students, and they're just kind of learning from the past students that had that position. Now we're paying these students to be at events and run sound, but are we providing training for them? And that's what I'm interested in increasing in the future for our live performances of plays and musicals. And speaking of musicals, we are interested in bringing back larger cast shows. Due to COVID this year, we selected a small show to keep our numbers down and all that. We want to get the all-school musical back on track and get as many students involved. And we don't cut students from that. We include every student that auditions. We find a role for them, or they're part of the ensemble. So that adds to our recruiting numbers. As Mr. Newman talked about, storage and uniforms, our choir robes still say SHS on them. I can't give you a date on when those were purchased, but they're about $140 a piece, and we're going to be replacing those in the near future as well. They're due to be disposed of very soon. And instrument storage. Our classroom right now, we have 3 auxiliary uniform cabinets that are packed all the way across. I'm surprised the racks in them have not fallen off the mounting. Our instrument storage room, like you said, is getting plans to be renovated. Our uniform storage probably needs the same treatment because we're already busting at the seams right now. If we're going to be growing over the next 5 years, I don't know where we're going to put all their uniforms. So that's about it. I don't want to I'm kind of trying to skip over the things that align with what Mr. Newman said, but that's about it. If I dare I say, are there any questions? It's always a scary thing.
Only applause.
Okay.
Yeah, I like everything I'm hearing. Just as you start to put it in the format that we see for the other items we've talked about, just, as you've got your goals and then your action steps, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I can say as a parent, I can't say enough about how wonderful an experience it was for both my sons and for me as a parent. So thank you for all that you've done, and most of which nobody has a clue about, but thank you.
And I can say as a superintendent who has a 27-year-old who was very musically inclined and was in jazz band and marching band and all those things, that I wish he would have been in our choir and band, because you guys are the best in the business. And I love how you represent our school district. I'm so proud of you guys and our kids every year. And I don't know how you guys ever lose anything, because I don't know what some of these judges are seeing when you don't win.
We don't either.
Selfishly speaking.
You guys are the best in the business. And to be honest with you, I'm going to sorely miss Bob Putka. Watched his last performance this year, and that's a heartbreaker to watch him go to. But great job. You guys represent so many kids in this district, and give so many kids a home. So thank you for the quality, excellent work you guys do.
Thank you.
So thanks. All right. I know you guys have to go to class, so you guys are more than welcome to do that. And after the bell, Kyle, I will bring you back up to finish athletics.
Okay, just, I know compliments, but one of the things that Greg Newman and the band and the athletic boosters did was we got together last year when we were talking about concessions and how many people were allowed in the stadium, and we had a lot of meetings with band boosters and athletic boosters, which was nice, and you'll see we're going to try to continue that because of the communication and how we work together. So both of them obviously do an outstanding job. Okay, number 4 here. You're going to like this one. It's quick. Incorporate a uniform barcode tag to integrate with final forms. So I kind of do a little show and tell. James Branchek, who worked for Google and works in the district, you can pass it along. He came up with this idea, and Mr. Bratt and Mr. Gumry were all for it after we kind of saw what we could do with it. So Final Forms has a uniform inventory. So, and maybe as we buy new in fine arts, I heard they need some uniforms. So same thing for us. Now, the 5-year strategic plan for us would try to get them all inventoried, right? Obviously, as we get new, ours are in a 5-year rotation, we're going to use the reader, we'll tag them in, and that's going to take me a little bit of time with head coaches, but we want to jump in. Mr. Branchek, who coached track at Kimpton, he did it, and he was kind of our, what do we call it, Mr. Gumry, kind of our guy to, point guy on it, so how it worked and the different nuances and idiosyncrasies. But you tag it, it goes on the person, it's going to help us inventory and keep track and record if it's gone. We do it now, and Mrs. Cedar up in activities does a great job, but we love this idea. It's going to take us a little bit of a time, but we think it's going to work. Questions? Thank you. And I got to give credit to him. He kind of came and presented it, then we all met. Treasurer was there at that meeting, and we said, hey, let's you be the point guy and see how it works. So we're hoping this fall with every new uniform, because we have to insert those. And as you saw it, I was a little concerned about, so I asked James to wash it, and he's washed that 5 times. So you saw it after it had been washed 5 times. Heat sealed in, yeah, and we had to buy a little bit of equipment to put that in. So we think that's going to help us, and it'll be a good thing for us as we move forward.
Trevor, I don't know if it's cost affordable or not, but Kyle mentioned something just kind of in passing. I think that would be a great idea for like the uniforms and the robes and everything that they were just mentioning. I'm asking Trevor.
We've had discussions about that. We want to walk and run with the athletics. Band has
Make
said
sure it works.
has said that they have their own tracking system, which is that's
Oh, really?
that
Okay.
that uniform is actually numbered from the manufacturer. So, but
On the second level, outside the attendance office, for all late arrival students, career students, anyone who came into the building after collection times this morning. So at this time, anyone who still has a computer to turn in is going to bring the computer on with the cord already wrapped up to the table outside the attendance office. Thank you.
I don't think there should be a computer left in this building.
yeah, to hold on to your computers if somebody runs in. So one of the things Mr. Feldman talked about, which kind of sold me on the idea, is when they do these final forms and uniforms, it associates to them, and that is uploaded into their student information system. So really, when they're doing that, what I'm looking at all these systems, I'm looking at integration through the process that, I don't have to have somebody entering in a UPC code on a uniform to a kid. They scan it and it goes through, they associate the kid, and then it sits there. The uniform's lost, then I'm not sitting there saying to Kyle, hey, what's your uniform stuff this year? He says, hey, here's what we found, that we had lost uniforms or damaged beyond repair. Here's what our replacement schedule has to be. And that's something that's really helpful for athletics. So.
And Final Forms, when we did that, started in athletics and then did it district-wide. It just continues to expand and be able to use. So it's a neat thing when we do inventory for students on teams. 5's an expensive one, and I just heard my friends talk about expensive things. This is expensive. So we had it this year. It's year 2 of the club. Now, we always, so club year 1, club year 2. This would be year 3. I think they're a little frustrated because they're out ahead. They're out ahead, meaning they've done pretty well on getting involved, having the program be what we think kids would follow. All the things that they're doing, all the check marks. It is OHSA adopted. That's number 1 on adopting a new sport. When you look at ice hockey, it's pretty popular, and our guys have done a pretty good job. Now, I can't mention ice hockey without mentioning indoor track. Now, indoor track is not OHSA adopted. However, our guys here and girls on boys and girls cross country, boys and girls track have done a good job of expanding it to indoor, which prepares them for the outdoor. Remember, the outdoor is only about 7 weeks. So they need that training, and it helps. So this is already OHSA adopted. When I met with them, meaning we've met, we still have a lot of work to do, but I asked them, you got to give me some sort of transition plan. And we think, he sent me a 1040 last night, he sent me these slides. So I threw them in, some of the things that he wanted me to talk about. They have participated in all our booster stuff. They're at the Kent State Ice Arena where Stowe, Kent Roosevelt, and Hudson go. Now, Kent State was real strict last year on who was allowed to be on campus and who was allowed to use their facilities. So they have done a good job with this program. The last one is they have been self-funded. I heard Mr. Campagna and Mr. Newman talk about sometimes parents in programs have an expectation that they're going to pay. Right now, I'm not talking about the pay to participate and all the things through athletics, but I think there's a way, in some of these more expensive sports that we would have to have a discussion, superintendent, treasurer, myself, principal, on how we would move forward. But this, when you look at in the next 5 years, this would be on the list, right?
Kyle, what is the feeder program like?
Good question. They participate through the Kent, it's not the Kent Flames, it's a Kent Youth Hockey. Most of the kids go through that youth organization at Kent Roosevelt. They have the facility and the rink. So that's where most of our kids played during youth. Good question.
Is there a certain, to get a sport up and running, do you have to be a club team for a certain amount of time?
We've talked about it 3 years, yeah. But we have done some things, for instance, bowling, when we adopted them, they had gone 5. So some parents were looking at me a little frustrated. Then the OHSAA adopted them, and then we did right away. Mr. Spangler was on the board at that time, and lacrosse, we've adopted lacrosse. Yeah. So you like to look at 3 years because it gives you all the factors. I'm reporting now that they are hitting all the factors.
How many students are participating and are they all younger grades, older grades?
Yeah, that's another good point. 15 players, and I think of those 15, 3 were, 2 were at other schools, a couple were open enrolled. So because it's, a newer sport, we've got a couple, but.
I'm just curious about how, once it's in place, how we're encouraging younger students.
Right. Yeah, and that's a great question.
It's not like hockey something.
Right.
Got to skate first. Right. It's like walking before you run.
And I've met with these guys here. In hockey, I tried to include it this fall. They have a team manager who's a parent. And I'm going, why don't we do that for other sports, right? I can communicate kind of with one person that kind of communicates with parents. So when I say an outstanding group of team leaders, they are. That's why I think, and we get worried that you have that because you want it to continue. Yeah, and that was the.
So I guess my question is, these are all seniors who are going to leave?
No, we think we're going to perpetuate with this group, but it's people.
But that's also why we do it for 3 years, to make sure that you can.
Yeah. But in the meantime, as like this, and we have a big sports award in the Beacon Journal, they selected one of our kids. So our kids are already getting, those things that recognition from participation.
Yeah, that is awesome.
6, and there's only 2 left. Mr. Bratton and I have talked about this one last year prior to COVID. This is really about leadership development. And I saw something that I wrote down. Currently, teens are the victims of strong cultural headwinds that have stunted their social and emotional development. I heard you guys talk about it last night. We've talked about this social and emotional development. We think this is a big part in athletics to help us with that. Whether you're talking culture, teamwork, leadership. And we've talked about when could we do it, because we had done it a couple of years ago, and it was captain's council, and you like to feed kids, right? You bring them together, and we had a luncheon. And then I had some teachers who said, Kyle, you're taking the same kids out of my class. So we really think that the Wednesday thing, right, Mr. Bratton? Yes. The Wednesday thing would work when we do this. When could we incorporate it? Because it worked, and kids loved being there. But, when you start talking about outstanding leaders, you kind of, it's the same, sometimes it's the same kids, whether it's student council, NHS, captains on sports teams. So, but we think it's huge, this Positive Coaching Alliance. Scott, I don't know if you had any with Positive Coaching Alliance, but Ryan Virtue, who's the representative from Ohio, I just did a couple webinars with him this past year. And if you have a chance, look at the website. It's pretty good, because that's kind of where we'll base some of our leadership, teamwork, and establishing our culture from that. Last one, number 7. This one kind of got us into from COVID too. I wasn't able to get to Stow Youth football, so Todd and Stephanie said, Kyle, we want to meet with a coach. I'm like, okay, can I go to your meeting? So I started attending their meetings in Zoom over the course of this whole year. We knew we had a little bit of vacuum on outreach down, and we have to fix that. We heard, Greg and Nick both talk about how do you reach down? We have to do it in athletics too. For instance, you saw John here and Tom Harrell, 2 Booster Club members. They've said to the booster board, guys, you need to find a new treasurer pretty soon, right? And Tom Harrell, who's done concessions in the stadium for 22 years, Kyle, you need to find a new concessions. All right, Tom, we'll do what we can. That kind of sparked this down reach. And now in Stow Youth football, which Todd and Stephanie and I and Tom Phillips have met, and we're meeting again in the athletic office next Friday, just to try to establish this reach down and find some leaders. They have a great treasurer and they have a great concessions guy. I will be recruiting them as they come to the high school. So we have to do that not only in our youth programs, but also in our Kimpton. And Steve and Mike, who are up there on the left, do a great job. We bring them to the high school. I put all the turf games in first in the fall. And then what we have left, Mike and I will look and try to plug in a 7th grade or an 8th grade game on dates that we have available. So we know this is something that we talk about to all head coaches in head coaches meetings, as we build relationships down. But it's got to be a little bit more than that. It's got to be build relationships and identify parents that are positive and willing to work. And so we got to almost take it to a next level. So I think that's it.
And for us, Kyle and I talked about that. That's a great vision, but now we need to come up with a plan. You know, what's that plan look like? You know, how do we do it? Is that monthly meetings? Is that, and you know, that big hairy goal, like you said, Lisa, at the end? What does that look like, and how do we know that we got there? That SMART goal. You know, because it's great to say in theory that we just need to build relationships. Well, how do we know that we got there? And so that's the part we need to figure out in our action steps, because we have got to build those relationships at the lower levels. We got to start sooner with our programs and our coaches. And we have the program built like we did before with the leadership seminars, and we have the curriculum, but then COVID hit. We were going to start that a couple years ago, if you remember, and then that's when COVID hit. So we're hoping to look to start that next school year, and that's for not just athletes, but that's for leaders of anything. That's for section leaders. That's for NHS presidents and officers and whatever. So, you know, you want to be a leader in this district and be in charge of a group, you're going to attend these seminars, you know. And so I think that that'll be a really exciting time for us to have that, you know, to help. You can't just be a leader without getting some instruction on how to lead. You know, so.
I appreciate all of your points on this. They're kind of operationally directed, but I want to make sure that you feel free to really reach. Mediocre is not okay. And even though it seems like pie in the sky, if we don't aim incredibly high, then we're not going anywhere. And it's not acceptable for us in Stow just to stay here, you know. So when I said that about the live streaming and that involved money and stuff, it does. But that doesn't mean you should squelch that. That means you should say, hey, look, let's just make it a goal by 2025 that we have cameras everywhere that we can live stream like this. You know, that we have hockey, you know, that we have the state-of-the-art ticketing system that may evolve every single year. But we have that we're scanning our uniforms. So when somebody just turns in something, you can actually scan and do it. And I absolutely love the leadership thing. The one thing that I really feel is important to add is the coaching piece. And that's because we have the opportunity with athletics to really change lives. We have that opportunity because they have a different relationship. And I think if we don't focus on that, we're missing that opportunity. And there's, you know, always a situation where, as, you know, in youth sports it's different, but as you get to the high school, there's a question. Are the kids there for the coach, or is the coach there for the kids? And I know everybody in this room will say the coach is here for the kids, and that's the number one focus, and the byproduct of that will be wins, right? But we all know that sometimes it's hard to get coaches, you know, and once we get them at the last minute. There's no training in this. So you get what you get, you know. Sometimes it's a treasure. Sometimes you're thinking, but it's crucial to the students that go through the programs. You know, for example, in a basketball, you've got your starting five, and then you've got a couple more. But in that entire program, you may have 30 kids. You know, so I think it's really important for us to put that in the strategic plan, that we acknowledge that the coaches are here for the players. That's number one. And our number one goal, you know, of course, would be to teach the sport, but our number one goal would be to take the student where they're at and raise them to a next level. I think would be horrible if we created a 5-year plan without acknowledging that we need to take our coaches to that level too. And I think that the community feels that. The community will never say that, because community is afraid to say that, because their children are in the sports. But I think an increased focus in training and whatever it takes would be huge in every district, you know. It's not a new concept.
Kyle, you touched on this, but it wasn't listed as one of your numbers, I think, because it was probably an on-the-fly kind of statement, but I really liked it. And it was when you were talking about increased communication, interaction, and collaboration with the fine arts folks. And I would really like to see that in here and in both.
Yeah.
In both, because I think it leads to a lot of really creative ideas.
Agreed.
And so I just want to make sure that it gets its own number.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Agreed. I think it's great.
yeah.
And I know you all understand this, that leadership, when you're lucky to have a booster club treasurer or concessions or that stay, and you kind of establish that and they get it, it's easier than it, because most parents aren't like that. Most parents are gonna be in, oh, I'm going, guys, see you later, my kid graduated, and then you gotta go back. That's why 6, I will take any suggestions that you have on, reaching down. But we are doing that with band boosters and athletic boosters, just because we did it. How are we gonna get into the concession stand in October? So we all sat back together. But yeah, it's great.
It's really led to a lot of really creative ideas, and I'd like to see that continue.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate all of you guys being here this morning. Kyle, you guys do an amazing job, and just like I said to Nick and Greg, I'm proud of our kids, proud of the way they compete, and proud of the way that they conduct themselves, and proud of our leadership there with you guys and our kids. And it's just, you guys affect so many lives, and thank you for the work that you do. And let's just keep getting better. And that's the goal. If we're not getting better, that means we're staying the same, and that's not good enough. So let's keep getting better. So thank you. And we the fine arts and the athletics, we will put that in format. As soon as that's in format, I'll probably send it to y'all to take a look at ahead of time instead of waiting. And then that way you can have reviewed it before we come in. And if you have any suggestions at that time or when you come in, that's fine. And then we can do that final review. The last piece of this, because that's the last goal, is Aisha was going to do a quick report out on, if everybody remembered when we talked about Portrait of a Bulldog. We had asked to get the feedback from the DLT, which is our district representation. It's everybody. It's classified, it's certified, it's administrators, it's teachers, it's everybody, okay? And so Aisha did that exercise to bring to the board and then to collaborate all of that information together, then to form that Portrait of a Bulldog going forward. I won't ask that to be defined today, but I would like that to be shared. And then on our last meeting, that's the last thing we'll clean up along with the rest of the stuff, and then we will finish up our strategic plan. Does that sound okay to everyone? Okay. It shouldn't take too long. Aisha, you want to share that, please?
All right. So I took the DLT through a protocol. We were discovering our core beliefs and values. From there, we narrowed down our core beliefs and values into words, and we talked about how those words translated into attributes and characteristics and qualities that we would hope to see in our students upon graduation. And some of those words came out as self-regulated learners, self-reflective, commitment, proactive, self-starter, empathy, trustworthy, compassionate, problem solver, and responsible citizenship. The hope was to do the same activity with you today, but in the interest of time, because we've run out, I don't think I'll be able to do that with you today, to kind of generate and garner your words so we can have a marriage between the words. So that's it. Short and sweet. Any questions?
Don't worry, Aisha. If we have words, we'll send them to you.
Kyle, thank you for everything. I have to say personally, I have never seen, I don't know how he was as an athletic, I've never seen an athletic director that was so much into making things equal in the sports. And that's actually what your reputation is, and it's really impressive. And you guys do an incredible job, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Breton, anything before we adjourn? Anything from the board members?
No, ma'am, I know that was a lot this morning, but it's important things. And we've got a hefty 5-year, we're almost there. We will try to do the next one within the next 3 weeks to finish this off. I will have the last two, the rest of the edits done, and the last two put in the correct format, sent out to you to review. Come back one last time, finalize those, do Portrait of a Bulldog, and we should be able to wrap it up. Does that sound okay to everyone? Okay. Other than that, I am turned back over to you.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call when you're ready.
Bedio,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Johnson Bowers.
Aye.
Right.
Aye. We are adjourned at 11:43. Sorry.